guys decide.
We're going to put on the armor of God and maybe strap on a Glock on the side of us just in case. That's what she said. Lake has quickly risen up the ranks of Republican politics by ingratiating herself to Trump. She's a prominent election denier who's running for a crucial United States Senate seat in Arizona that could determine control of that chamber of Congress. She wasn't even the only Republican this week to endorse the use of physical force against people whose ideologies don't align with theirs. On Monday, the Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton took aim at demonstrators who've recently been blocking traffic as a form of protest against Israel's ongoing assault in Gaza. In a post on X, he encouraged people to, quote, take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way, end quote. He then followed up that post with a video from an unspecified protest showing showing people forcibly dragging protesters out of the street. He captioned that video, quote, how it should be done. This is not the first time that either Lake or Cotton have used violent rhetoric, and while they should each be held responsible for their actions, it's also clear that Trump ushered in this dangerous era in politics. During his first presidential bid, he repeatedly promoted violence on the campaign trail. Anti-Trump protesters were assaulted by Trump supporters at more than one of his rallies. It happened in Birmingham in November 2015 to a Black Lives Matter activist. The following day, instead of denouncing that violence, Trump said, quote, maybe he should have been roughed up. When a protester disrupted his speech at a rally in Las Vegas in 2016, Trump said, quote, I'd like to punch him in the face. And after multiple protesters showed up and interrupted an event in North Carolina in March 2016, Trump lamented about how, quote, in the good old days, this didn't used to happen because they used to treat them very rough, end quote. One protester was indeed assaulted by a Trump supporter at that event, and after that Trump supporter was arrested, Trump even suggested he would pay his legal bills. This is a problem that's no longer being treated like a problem within the Republican Party. It's emblematic of a party that's grown increasingly intolerant of dissent, a party that lacks leadership, that does not have a unifying ideology. And that's why we're seeing the chaos that we're seeing on Capitol Hill that we've been talking about this morning. It's going on right now. Joining me now, again, Molly Jong-Fast, special correspondent for Vanity Fair, host of the Fast Politics podcast, and an MSNBC political analyst. Molly, we didn't even touch on the fact that Donald Trump, at the beginning of his rallies, he'll have one tonight, and it'll probably be the same. He has that weird national anthem that is sung by the January 6th chorus, whom he calls hostages and patriots. They were people who were engaged in violence. You can say that they were completely to blame or they were suckers, whatever the case is. He honors this.
Right.
He honors this political violence day in and day out.
He elevates political violence because he wants to create an example for others, right? I mean, these are the really violent January 6th protesters who ended up in jail because a lot of them were held accountable, but only very few were put in jail for a long time. And those were the ones who did really violent acts.
Right.
And remember, all of these people, it will be wild. Remember, we're going to the Capitol. It's going to be beautiful.
Right.
You know, don't have them go through the machines. You know, all of that stuff, right? Trump was very involved. Now, we haven't seen legally if he will be held accountable because he's spent so much money. You know, the New York Times estimates about $100 million on legal fees to punt all of these cases except this New York criminal case.
So he asked the judge in the New York criminal case, or his lawyers asked him to say that he wants to appear at the Supreme Court, which is going to also next week be dealing with the issue of his immunity. And the judge said no. Appearing in the Supreme Court is an important thing if you happen to have a case there, but actually this is also an important trial and you have to be here. So the idea that the judge is going to give him permission to go out to campaign is kind of a non-starter.
Right.
The one thing about this trial that is important for Donald Trump to register is he is on trial as a defendant in court in New York. He's got to show up. He's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's being treated like everyone else.
Yes.
For the first time, really, ever.
Yes.
Right? This is a person who's been so successful at getting, using his privilege, his affluence, the way he grew up, his whiteness and maleness to really have a cakewalk. He has gotten away with devaluing property in order to pay less taxes and then valuing it to, get more insurance. He's done all of these things. In fact, he has this fraud, bond, which now is looking a little
There's
bit...
some questions about
right,
this, right, yeah.
And he has to be in court on Tuesday for that. So this is a person who has never really been held to the same accountability standard as anyone else. And here he is, and now he has to sit in court like a normal defendant because he actually is a defendant.
Who has to follow rules.
Right.
I think the point that Joanne made in the last hour is he's made a career out of being a rule breaker or not, the rules not applying to him. And people seem to like that about him.
Yeah.
Right? Some of his supporters like the idea that he operates outside of norms and rules. Except this week, he's not.
Right. And I would say, one of the things that Trump has done very successfully is he never apologizes.
Right.
So, he'll get something wrong or he'll lie about something and he'll never be a normal newspaper would print a retraction or you would say you were sorry. He never, ever does that. And that has worked really well for him with a percentage of the American public.
Right.
But not enough of a percentage of the American public to make him president again in 2020. And we will see in 2024 if it's enough. Remember, this is a person who has never had any interest in growing his base. He has never,
right.
ever in all of these years wanted to grow his base. And I'm just not convinced that this group, this hardened group that
right.
loves him so much and treats him as a religious figure is really enough to win even the Electoral College.
But the argument that Tim Snyder from Yale makes is that he also doesn't think it's enough, but he doesn't need it to be enough.
Right.
He just needs it to be close.
Right.
Donald Trump is just throwing enough chaos out there,
right.
enough concern about the integrity of the electoral system to this day. While people may not vote for him, there are enough people who think there was something that was fishy about the last election.
Right. And the problem also is the Republican Party has been so cowardly and they have not taken a stand. And even you've seen them say, well, there were questions. There was a once in a lifetime pandemic, right?
Right.
People have looked at this election every which way.
It's been litigated in court.
There's Hugo Chavez never did fix the voting machines. I mean, this was never a real thing. So I do think that, look, this is the authoritarian playbook. You talk about how elections aren't real. You talk about how the courts aren't real. You try to sow dissent in order to get back into power. And it's a desperate play, but this is all a desperate play. This is, this sort of anxiety about a true multiracial democracy, right? These people do not want that, and they are willing to do anything they can to gum up the works.
So there's some people who don't love this as the first case.
Right.
They think it's salacious. They think it's unimportant. It's not as influential. It's not the attack on democracies that some of the cases are. There is an element of this being an attack on democracy because he did something about an election. But what you are seeing is the process of a case at work, a judge who has asserted himself and says, I am the boss in this courtroom. Mm-hmm. You're not. You are a defendant just like any other defendant would be. And that is something Donald Trump is having great trouble with. But in the end, if he has to sit through this for 1 through 8 weeks, America is going to see a different Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, look, the question is, does it permeate the news bubble? Do other voters, the people who read People magazine, the people who are not 100% read in on everything, do they see it? And look, what I was surprised with last week was the people who came back from 2015, the ones that Trump had worked so hard to get rid of. Karen McDougal, Stormy Daniels, this alleged 1-year affair when his third wife had delivered his 5th child. He pays off an adult film star. I mean, these are very salacious details. And this is a man who is supposed to be the candidate of evangelicals.
Right.
So I do think this is not so helpful.
Someone's going to have a little squaring off of what their beliefs are versus who they believe in. Molly, good to see you again. Thank you, my friend. Molly Jong-Fast is a special correspondent at Vanity Fair and an MSNBC political analyst. Still ahead this hour on Velshi, we'll continue to watch Capitol Hill, where some House members are working to pass a long-stalled military aid package, and others are plotting to oust the House Speaker. Plus, the incredible story of how a red state governor who figures prominently on Donald Trump's VP shortlist got herself banned from setting foot on nearly 1/5 of the land in her own state. Then the actor, author, and activist Malik Pancholi makes his second appearance on the Velshi Band Book Club. We spoke to him last year about the truly lovely children's book he wrote, The Best at It, about diverse kids navigating their multi-layered identities. He's back again today because now it's not just his book that's being banned. The shocking story of censorship is ahead.
Were you worried the wedding would be too much?
Nah.
Another destination wedding? Why can't they use my backyard?
With Empower, we get all our financial questions answered, so we don't have to worry.
Empower. What's next?
Try killing bugs the worry-free way, not the other way. Zevo traps use light to attract and trap flying insects with no odor and no mess. They work continuously, so you don't have to. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
Hello, Ghostbusters. It's Doug. We help people customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. We got a bit of a situation. Sure, I can hold.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
In theaters now.
My cholesterol is borderline. I figure I can worry about it or do something about it. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol naturally. It's odor and taste free with guaranteed potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic.
Whew, I can't wait for this family getaway.
Shingles doesn't care. Shingles is a painful, blistering rash that can last for weeks.
There's nothing like a day out with friends.
That's nice, but Shingles doesn't care. 99% of adults 50 years or older already have the virus that causes shingles inside them, and it can reactivate at any time.
A perfect day for a family outing.
Guess what? Shingles doesn't care. But Shingrix protects. Only Shingrix is proven over 90% effective. Shingrix is a vaccine used to prevent shingles in adults 50 years and older. Shingrix does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients or to a previous dose. An increased risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome was observed after getting Shingrix. Fainting can also happen. The most common side effects are pain, redness, and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, tiredness, headache, shivering, fever, and upset stomach. Shingles doesn't care. But Shingrix protects. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Shingrix today.
Bleeding gums are serious, Jamie.
Dr. Garcia?
Whoa! They're a sign of bacterial infection.
Crest Gum Detoxify's antibacterial fluoride works below the gum line to help heal gums and stop bleeding.
Crest saves the day.
Crest.
Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun.
Discover our newest resort, Sandals St. Vincent and the Grenadines, now open. Visit sandals.com or call 1-800-SANDALS.
This is a keepsake frame. This is actually a photo from my wedding. I'm Adam Weiss, founder and CEO of Keepsake, the mobile app that makes it easy to have your photos printed, framed, and shipped to your doorstep. You just choose a photo that you love, you can preview it in over 100 frames, and in a couple of days, you're gonna receive your photo in a beautiful, handmade frame. So if you've got a special photo on your phone, install the free Keepsake app. We would love a chance to frame it for you.
At over $4 a blade, shaving every day gets expensive. Harry's 5-blade razor offers me a close, comfortable shave. Best part, refills are as low as $2 each, half of what I paid before.
Go to harrys.com/shave to claim your $7 trial.
I was seeing this bra all over my Instagram feed. I'm sure you're seeing it too.
This is the most comfortable bra I've ever put on in my life. I love it because, one, it's not underwire. I hate underwire. It smooths out your back. It doesn't give you back fat or back roll.